Hi, I'm Corey from ID Parts, and in this video, we'll be replacing the front axle on a Mercedes-Benz R-Class. Be the same process for an ML or GL, the front suspension is all the same. This particular car is in here because it's suffered a torn CV boot. There's grease everywhere. So we're gonna take the axle out, put a new CV boot on the shaft, and then put the axle back in. Let's get to it. After taking the wheel off, we'll go ahead and take the axle nut off. It is a 36mm socket that you'll need for this. Next thing you'll have to do is take the nut off so you can disconnect the upper control arm from the top of the steering knuckle. For that, you'll need a 22mm wrench for the nut, and you'll need to counterhold it with a T40 Torx bit. Quick edit here, this car had an aftermarket nut which was a 22, however the OEM nut is a 21. Now in this vehicle we're pretty lucky. The upper control arm has by itself popped out of the knuckle. That often doesn't happen because the ball joint will kind of get corroded and stuck to the top of the knuckle here. If that happens, you'll need to get what is one of these, a ball joint removal tool, which has two arms that would hook on to the knuckle, and then a threaded shaft, which would allow you to push the end of the ball joint up. So this is what you need if you can't get the upper control arm out. All right, T40 and our right, there we go. All right, we got the upper control arm disconnected from the knuckle. Now we can move down and start dealing with getting the axle out. Now to get yourself the most possible space, you want the wheel to be pointing as far basically towards the direction of turning as possible. So in this case, I'm gonna rotate so we're making a really hard right-hand turn because I'm working on the left side knuckle. That will give us enough room to push this axle out of the way, or pop this axle out of the knuckle. Now we have to get the axle out of the hub, and we're going to use a brass punch to do it. Brass is a very soft metal, so you can use it to hammer against something without damaging the thing that you're hitting. If you use a normal hammer on the end of this axle, you will risk damaging the threads or damaging the end of the CV joint here. And you don't want to do that. So grab yourself a brass punch. They're not very expensive and they're easy to get. Just gonna line it up, start hitting. Now the axle's been released, the final step is to wiggle it out of the knuckle. There isn't a whole lot of room, so you're gonna have to kind of play around until you find the perfect angle to allow you to do this. All right, there we go. The outer CV joint has been disconnected from the spindle. Okay, final step is to release the inner CV joint from the transfer case here. There isn't a bolt we have to take out or anything, it's just a circlip. So I've got a pry bar here and I'm going to wiggle it between the case and the axle and get the axle to release. With the inner axle released, we can now remove the axle from the car. As you can imagine, installation is the same as a reverse of removal. No circlip here, so a firm push will get that done. And just like before, if you get the angle just right, you can get the axle to slide it into the knuckle. It's much easier to get this lined up with the wheels straight. So if you're having trouble, straighten the wheels first. Before we reattach the axle nut, it's a good idea to get the upper control arm back in place. Final step is to install the new axle nut. The final torque on this is 250 Newton meters, which works out to be about 185 foot-pounds, plus a 45-degree additional turn. It's a 2-stage torque process. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions, email me at sales@IDParts.com. You can leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to get back to you. If you subscribe to the channel and click on the little alert icon, you will be notified when I make new videos. And as always, thank you for watching. Take care.